You already know the right time isn't coming. Somewhere inside you, you've always known. But you keep waiting anyway. That's the part nobody talks about. Not the waiting itself, but the fact that you know, and you still can't stop. Let's stay here for a moment. Let's actually look at this. You have something you want to do. A business, a project, a change. A version of your life that looks completely different from the one you're living right now. You can see it. You can feel it. On certain nights, lying in the dark, it feels so close you could almost reach out and touch it. And then morning comes, and you don't move. You tell yourself the timing isn't right. You tell yourself you're not ready. You tell yourself that once things settle down, once you finish this semester, once you save a little more money, once life stops being so chaotic, then you'll start. Then you'll be ready. Then the moment will finally be right. But here's what's actually happening. The chaos doesn't stop. The semester ends, and something else begins. The money never feels like enough. Life does not pause and hand you a window of perfect calm and say, "Here, this is your moment, go." That is not how any of this works. And yet you keep waiting as if it will. That loop you're in, that cycle of almost starting, that permanent state of getting ready to get ready. It has a name in psychology. It's called waiting for readiness that never arrives. And the cruelest part of it is this. The longer you wait, the more convinced you become that the wait is necessary. Every day you don't start becomes evidence that you weren't ready yet. Every week that passes becomes proof that the timing wasn't right. You build a case, a whole argument, a courtroom inside your head where waiting is always justified and starting is always postponed. And meanwhile, months pass, then a year, then more. Think about where you were 12 months ago. You need to understand what waiting is actually costing you. Not just in time, though, that cost is enormous. There's something deeper happening. Every time you choose to wait instead of act, you send a message to the part of yourself that dreams. You tell it your dreams are not worth the discomfort of pursuing them. Every day the message repeats. And slowly, the dreaming part of you starts to go quiet. Not gone, but quieter. More defeated. More convinced that nothing will ever change. And you start living smaller. You start lowering the ceiling. You start calling the life you're avoiding, and the version of yourself you haven't become, just something that wasn't meant to be. And that is one of the saddest things a person can do to themselves. Compare yourself, just for a moment, not to the people who are already ahead of you, not to the highlight reels you scroll through on your phone at 2 in the morning, feeling like everyone else has figured out something you haven't, not to that. But compare yourself to who you could be if you had started a year ago. Compare yourself to the person you would have become if you had taken the imperfect first step 12 months back, made the mistakes, learned from them, tried again, adjusted, and kept going. That person, the one who started a year ago, is ahead of you right now. Not because they were more talented, not because they had better circumstances, but because they moved, and you waited. That gap is real, and it grows every day you stay still. Let's talk about your phone for a second, because this is part of the same pattern and most people refuse to see it. The scrolling, the short videos, the constant refreshing of feeds, the hours that vanish into nothing. That's not just distraction. That is your brain choosing immediate reward over the discomfort of meaningful work. Every time you pick up your phone instead of sitting with the discomfort of starting, your brain logs a vote. A vote that says this, the easy thing, is what we do now. And every vote makes the next vote easier to cast in the same direction. You are not just wasting time. You are training yourself to need distraction. You are building a brain that cannot tolerate the silence and stillness that real work requires. And the scarier part is that it feels fine. It feels like rest. It feels harmless. Until one day you look up and realize you have spent years being entertained and produced almost nothing. Students, especially. If you are in school right now, if you are young and at the beginning of the part of your life, where what you do actually starts to compound, listen very carefully. The habits you build now are the habits you carry forward. The patterns you establish in your early 20s will still be running in your 30s if you don't interrupt them deliberately. The version of you who spends 4 hours a day on your phone, who puts off the assignment until the last possible moment, who dreams about what they'll do after graduation without building anything before it. That version of you does not suddenly transform the moment circumstances change. You take yourself with you everywhere you go. You bring every habit, every pattern, every ingrained response to discomfort that you've built up over years of choosing the easy thing. which means the time to change is not later. The time to change is now, not tomorrow. Not after you finish watching this. Now, let's be honest about something uncomfortable. You are not waiting because the timing is wrong. You are waiting because starting is terrifying. And starting is terrifying because it makes things real. Right now, the dream exists in perfect form inside your head. It hasn't been tested. It hasn't met reality. It hasn't failed yet. In your imagination, it can be everything you hope it will be. But the moment you start, the moment you take that first real step into the real world, you risk finding out that it's harder than you thought, that you're less capable than you hoped, that the thing you've been promising yourself you'd build might actually be beyond you. And that fear, the fear of discovering the truth about yourself, is the most powerful kind of fear there is. Here's what I need you to hear. That fear is not a warning. That fear is a signal. It's pointing directly at the thing that matters most to you. The things that don't matter don't frighten you like that. The things that could genuinely change your life, the things that require the best version of you, those are the things that create real terror. And that terror, if you learn to read it correctly, is the most reliable compass you have. It's not telling you to stop. It's telling you this is it. This is the direction. Go here. You have been misreading your fear. You have been calling it wisdom. It is not wisdom. It is resistance. And resistance is always strongest at the threshold of real change. The people you admire, the ones who built things, who created things, who took their one life and did something extraordinary with it, they were afraid too. Every single one of them. The fear didn't leave. They moved forward inside the fear. That's the entire secret, not the elimination of fear, the willingness to act despite it, to sit down and do the work with shaking hands, to press send even though your heart is pounding, to start the project on a Tuesday afternoon when conditions are imperfect and energy is low and nothing feels particularly aligned. To start anyway. Now let's talk about what actually builds a life, because it is not what you think. It is not one perfect decision made at exactly the right time. It is not a single breakthrough moment. It is not a morning when everything clicks and you finally become the disciplined, focused, unstoppable person you've imagined yourself becoming. It is none of those things. It is smaller than that. Almost embarrassingly small. It is sitting down for 30 minutes when you don't want to. It is sending the imperfect email. It is posting the unpolished first attempt. It is showing up on the day you feel like quitting. It is returning after you mess up without turning the setback into a reason to stop. It is the choice you make today, and then tomorrow, and then the day after that, in the absence of motivation, in the presence of resistance, in the ordinary, unremarkable middle of a life that does not feel particularly special yet. That's where change actually lives, not in the grand gesture, in the daily, undramatic commitment to doing the next small thing. You don't need a perfect plan. You need movement. You don't need to feel ready. You need to start. You don't need the right time. You need to choose this time and make it the right time through action. Because here is what nobody tells you about starting. Starting creates the readiness you've been waiting to feel. Clarity does not come before the work. It comes through the work. Confidence does not come before the attempt. It comes after the first attempt, and the second, and the third, and every imperfect attempt that teaches you something the waiting never could. So let's talk about right now, this specific moment. Not tomorrow, not next week. This moment. What is one thing, just one, that you've been putting off? What is the thing that has been living in the back of your mind? The thing you've been promising yourself you'd get to eventually. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, it's better if it's small. Open the document. Write the first sentence. Make the call. Send the message. Post the thing. Register for the course. Start the application. Pick one thing. One real thing. Not a plan to do the thing. Not a note about the thing. The actual thing. A real action in the real world that moves you forward even 1 inch. Because that 1 inch is everything. That 1 inch is the difference between a person who waits and a person who moves. That 1 inch starts a chain reaction in your brain. It tells your nervous system that starting is survivable. It creates a tiny reference point of success. It makes the next step slightly easier than this first one was. It begins the process of building a new identity, not someone who waits, but someone who moves. And here's what that becomes over time. Those inches add up. Those small, consistent, unglamorous actions accumulate into something real, into a body of work, into a skill, into a life that looks completely different from the one you're living right now. Not because some perfect morning arrived, but because you stopped requiring the morning to be perfect. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not someone who just doesn't have what it takes. You are someone who has been waiting for a signal that isn't coming. And now you know that. Now you understand what the waiting actually is and what it is actually costing you. Understanding is the first step, but only the first step. Because understanding without action is just more preparation, more getting ready, more sophisticated waiting. So this has to end today. Right here, right now. Not with a grand resolution. Not with a long list of things you're going to change starting Monday. Just with one choice. One small, real, uncomfortable, imperfect choice that you make today. Not because the time is right. Because you finally decided to stop letting the fear of wrong timing steal the only thing that was never coming back. Your time. Your days. The one life you have, which is happening right now. Not later, not when you're ready. Now. In the mess. In the uncertainty. In the middle of everything. This is the moment you look back on. The moment you stopped, waiting, and started. Go. Move. Begin. There is nothing else to figure out first.